So have you ever had that moment where you kind of have 10 photos, but you don't know which one that's the right one to pick? Today I'm going to show you exactly how to go from 600 photos down to your best 10, and exactly the steps that I take in order to pick out the best of the best. In case you're new here, hi, I'm Robyn from Robyn O'Brien Photography and Robyn's Academy, and I teach people how to create photos that they love and adore, that they're proud to share. So one of the first things I kind of look for is that gut response, and sometimes you'll feel this when you are like actually out with your camera and you'll kind of sit there and go, oh my god, that was the shot, that felt really good. And sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong, but the reality is it's really easier to be able to pick those out as you watch it. So one of the little tricks that I do is sometimes I'll just put my finger over the end of the, if I'm on my iPhone, I'll put my finger over the what's it and just take a shot so it's nice and black, so I can see exactly where I thought I took a good shot. And I'm going to check it later. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but at least it's easier to be able to find the ones I thought were good. And that felt right, and that kind of helps hone that feeling. If you're on a bigger camera, like I've got a Canon, just put your whole palm over the front. You can take a funny shot. So sometimes I'll take a picture of myself, literally just swing around, take a quick selfie, and I go, okay, that's the one I thought that was going to be okay because I'm smiling. The biggest thing you kind of need to do is you have to have a system of being able to call down your photos. Basically, this is what photographers do, that when they get back, they sit down with all their photos and they kind of have to find the best of the best. The problem with this is, in a digital age, we have a tendency to overtake shots because we're worried about missing the shots, so therefore we take more of them. And that's very easy to do because we just put another memory card in, or you just get bigger memory cards. This is all, much easier ways of doing it. But the problem is you then get home and realise you've got 600 photos and you've got to get down to like 4. And it's heartbreaking. It's genuinely heartbreaking when you've got to sit there and go, I don't know which one's better than this. And it can be quite overwhelming when you sat there. And it doesn't matter which editor you use. I use the same steps for any editor. Now personally, I'm old school. I like to use Lightroom Classic. It's a personal preference. It really doesn't matter which one you do now. A good editor will allow you to make notes about a photo. So whether it's like a star rating or a flag, or being able to literally write a comment and it puts a little note next to it. There are different ways that you can kind of do this, but I want to go through that kind of step by step. So literally the first thing I do is I go through and I look for that gut response. If I sit there and go, oh, I like it, and then kind of ask myself, well, why do you like it? What is it about this particular photo that you like? And does it meet all the other requirements that you're looking for? Because if you have that natural response, you kind of hope that everybody else will have that natural response, and therefore they will like your photo as well. So gut response, really, really big. And the more you kind of do this, and the more you kind of get a feel for the people who obviously like your photos, you kind of get a feel for it, if I'm honest. And I'm pretty good at this now, where I can just kind of go down and I can pretty much pick out the best just on gut. However, that wasn't what it was like at the beginning. At the beginning, I would literally phone my mate and be like, which one do you prefer? And there's nothing wrong with getting feedback, okay? I think when you're first going out, and if you get yourself a photography coach, that's amazing. But just asking a mate, which one do you prefer? Quite literally, just send them a quick message, go A or B, whatever, to see why they like that one. But the second things, and the kind of things you kind of want to be looking out for is, first of all, is it in focus? And I hate the word sharp, because sharp and focus, they're different, okay? They're different. And if you want to learn more about that, check it down below. But it's really kind of important that you understand the difference. So when I say it's in focus, I quite literally mean that the bit that you want to focus on is sharp, okay? That you can actually physically see it. There's no motion blur, there's no issues. You haven't got your camera setting wrong or anything like that. So first bit, is it sharp? And you kind of go through and you kind of go bad, 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 bad. It's a bit depressing to start with because you realise you have more bad than good, but that's what learning the process is. The second thing I kind of go to then, once I've called it down, I've put all my favourites in, and then I've took out all the crap, basically. And then you end up with what I like to call the mediocre in the middle. And the best thing I can say to you to do with this is literally go down and say, is it exposed right? And does it have a decent composition? So does it have a story that you particularly like? Is it telling you something? And I kind of want to go through a couple of examples with you so that you can kind of see exactly what I'm talking about, because it's all going to be sitting here and talking to you about this, but let's get back to reality. So we're going to jump over to the computer and I'll show you exactly what I mean. I went down to the local park and decided I wanted to do a little bit of wildlife photography. And wildlife photography is notoriously difficult because obviously you've got to wait for your subject to magically appear out of nowhere. It's great fun. It takes hours. So these aren't masterpieces, you know. This is me having a bit of fun on a morning while I'm walking my kid, getting some energy out of him, okay? This is not what I would call my award-winning photography. This is the reality of going out for a little walk, okay? And getting, you know, practice in. That's what I like to call it, a bit of practice. So we're going to start with the squirrel. And the reason why I'm going to start with the squirrel is simply because I think it's probably one of the funniest ones to do. So when I'm in Lightroom, one of the first things that I like to do is just go through, and I'm going to explain why I would say yes or no. So if it's an instant flag, it means I've had a gut response that I really, really like it, okay? If it's a gut response the other way, I can reject it, okay? And I kind of like to go down there, and then anything in between kind of gets a 1 star. Because it tells me that it's a mediocre and I need to investigate it more before I can decide whether I like it or not. So we're just going to go through a few of them. I'm going to jump the rabbits and go straight to the squirrel. So I saw a squirrel going down the fence. I decided I want to take a couple of photos of him scurrying down the fence. It's a story, okay? So obviously we're going to want to think about the process of movement. This is a squirrel moving, and therefore having space for him to move is a good composition. So we don't want a very, very tight close-up of him, and obviously we can manipulate composition by cropping, okay? Power of crop is amazing, but is it in focus? Is it got good lighting? Is there an instant emotional response? It's in focus, it's a bit boring, it's meh, I don't love it, okay, we've got a bit better. We've got a bit of movement. We've definitely got a situation where I can see the leading onto it. So my gut response on that one, not bad. Okay. I would probably give that a 1 to say I'll investigate it once I come back to it. It's not, oh my God, I'm in love with it, but it's all right. Got distracted by a rabbit. Can't help myself. Okay. Close up. What do I like? What don't I like? I love the fact that I've got a much tighter crop on this. He's still got movement because he's scurrying along. I like the fact that there's a little motion blur on the back legs, but he himself and his eye is in focus. That really, really like floats my boat. What I don't like about this one, and what annoys me, and again, this is a learning process that I can kind of check myself in the field next time, is I've cut off his tail. That really bugs me. Really bugs me. But overall, I actually like it. So I would definitely flag that one. So I would put a P for pick, and I'd then move on. This one, okay, yeah, I've got his tail in, so clearly I checked myself in the field. I realised that I needed to come back. Wasn't the right moment. Don't love it. So I would definitely reject that one. Okay, this one's quite cool. Again, he's scurrying along. I don't like the fact that I'm more interested in the holly than I am him, so I would just instantly reject it. We will move on to the birds in a second. So going back to it, I've pretty much got a choice between the one I cut the tail off, which is my instant gut response of, yeah, that's the one. It's got motion, it's in focus, it's got leading time. That would be the one I would pick, okay? Just kind of give you an input of the different ways that I would potentially do this, okay? But there's nothing wrong with that one. And I could potentially then decide, okay, the reason why I don't particularly like this one is because I don't actually think we're close enough. So if we actually zoom in, does that make it look better or worse? Well, actually, upon moving in, it looks a bit better. So do we just need to play with the crop factor on this and see if we can get it tighter? So we get less distractions from the other areas and see what happens. It's still looking a bit better. It's not as sharp as the other one, so I would still probably go with the other one. Now, if you've got photos that are distinctively the same, then you can move obviously on from there. It needs an edit. It's fine. Okay, so we're going to move on to different ones of a heron. Okay, like I said, it was a morning walk. Okay, instinctive response. Let me just make sure that this fits. Okay, not bad. It's okay. Clearly it's a picture. Clearly got, rule of thirds. It's got a reasonable composition. Doesn't wow me, if I'm honest. Hang on, let's go back. That's jumped. We were here. Yeah. Okay, so again, flying down, great. Got a bit of motion blur. Would have liked a higher shutter speed on this so that I didn't have so much motion blur. But that's probably me checking myself and not being able to change the settings quick enough to react to the animal. That's okay, because then I'll know next time just to make sure it's up before they move. Again, it's a learning process. I'm not a wildlife photographer. Okay, this one's much better. Clearly I probably did up my shutter speed. I love the fact that you've got the mirror reflection. I love the fact that it's reasonably sharp. You can see everything in it. I would probably make this a portrait, so I would probably consider it. So I like that one, so I'm going to put that down as a pick. Again, very good. I find the tree a bit distracting, so I think I prefer the other one, so I'm going to reject this one. And that one. And I think that's too busy. I like this one. This one's logical to me. I like the fact that you've got a very distinct line throughout the entire shot. It's a nice portrait. You can see what's there. I would probably crop it a little bit tighter to kind of distract, to make sure there isn't too many distractions, if I'm brutally honest. So I would probably bring this in. I like the fact that he's centered on this one and kind of make it that little bit tighter. You've got a nice leading line situation going on, a nice divide, and I would just probably make sure that I've got a slightly more separation from background to front just in the edit. Okay, so it's not, I like that one. It tells me a story. He's perching there, he's waiting for his fish. Okay, so we've got two that I like and a couple of maybes. Let's see what happens next. Don't like it, doesn't tell me enough. I'm not close enough. Okay, we've got a similar one to before. So we've got a situation where we've got him about to fly. Don't love it. There isn't enough contrast. There's more contrast there. It's a maybe. I'll come back to it. And then we're back to the rabbits. Okay, so out of these, what you can then obviously do is you can filter down to the two that are flagged. So the best ones that I had a gut response to was that one and that one. And you can kind of just check in with yourself to see what's going on. But you have to decide what your criteria is first. That's the real key, is decide what your criteria is and then move from there. Okay? If you want I love a good blooper. If you want some help with this and you kind of want to be able to talk through this, then I would genuinely drop me a comment below. I would be more than happy to have a conversation with anybody about their photography, because at the end of the day, you only actually get to learn from your mistakes is by moving forward and getting to grips with exactly what you're doing. If you don't take the time to talk about it and find the vocabulary behind it, you're not going to make progress. You're going to keep making the same things over and over again. So my personal criteria is gut response, because emotional response is really, really important to the viewer. Is it in focus? Is it exactly what is the bit I want in focus? Because obviously you can get misfocus. And is the composition and the exposure to a satisfactory level, basically? Can I manipulate it to make it exactly what I want? And then from there, as you can see, we've called it down. I would then edit these two. I would sit down and edit these two, and I would use those two for this particular shot. Now, okay, I didn't take out and take 600 of them, but I have done it in the past where I've gone out and I've taken 3,000 and got it down to 100. And the different ones tell different stories, okay? But the biggest thing is, why are you taking the photo? What are you trying to say? If it doesn't say it, it's not the right photo, and it's okay to go back and try again. Okay, I want to see what your pick of the day is. Tag me in it. I'm more than happy to go through these things. If you liked this video, then obviously hit the subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you get notified on my next one, because I will be making sure that I bring you more tips and tricks on how to get the best photos, even if you're not taking them yourself.